stance on this decision of filling this vacancy on the Supreme Court. We're going to drive that issue home, though our colleagues on the other side may want to talk about judicial philosophy. Very interesting. But this is demanding. We demand that all those who participate in this hearing understand the gravity of the decision when it comes to real life situations with American families. Sheldon.
Thank you, Dick. Our Republican colleagues are shocked that we think this nomination is all about judicially destroying the Affordable Care Act for people like Laura here from North Smithfield, Rhode Island. The only problem with their feigned shock is that they're the ones who've said that that's what they're doing. It's in the Republican Party platform to, and I'm quoting here, reverse the Obamacare cases. Trump has said he's using his nominations to terminate the Affordable Care Act. So I think it's pretty fair of us to hold them to account for what they have said this nomination is all about. And the American people are watching. They know this unseemly rush is inappropriate. They know it's targeting November 10th, and they know that it is wrong. Let me turn it over now to Amy Klobuchar.
Nice math, Maisie.
I know, I love it.
Thanks so much, Sheldon. Thanks, everyone. I mentioned these two when I was in the hearing room, but this are two sisters from Cambridge, Minnesota, Mariah and Evelyn, and they both play on the softball team. And one is a pitcher and one is a catcher. One was diagnosed early on with juvenile diabetes, and one wasn't. And so my point here is, does it matter which one was diagnosed? Don't they both deserve good health care? That's what really is at stake. And despite my colleagues' comments from the other side of the aisle about how somehow this judge's decisions are in some ivory tower and they're not going to affect people's lives, they're going to affect people's lives. They're going to affect the lives of every single person in this country. And you don't have to be a lawyer or a senator to figure out where this nominee is coming from when it comes to the Affordable Care Act. We know where she's coming from, and the president knows it too. And he has made it very clear in his tweets and his statements that he wants a court that's going to overturn Obamacare, and that he wants a court that is going to, in his words, count the ballots. And he thinks this election is somehow going to end up in court. So my point today is you cannot divorce this nominee from the moment we're in time. And that we do not have some secret, clever, procedural way to stop this sham. Let's be honest. And as good as we are, it's probably not going to be some brilliant cross-examination that is going to change the trajectory of this nomination. But there is one thing that will, and that is the people of this country. That is them voting. That is them understanding exactly what the Republican Party and this administration are doing right now and how it's going to affect their lives. Because this is not Donald Trump's country. This is your country, America's country. And this should not be Donald Trump's judge. It should be your judge. And I will turn it over to my good friend, Chris Coons.
Thank you, Senator Klobuchar. Why are we here? It is a mystery with an easy answer, an answer that is hiding in plain sight. It's because the Affordable Care Act is on the ballot and on the docket. I represent just 900,000 people in Little Delaware, and 340,000 of us have pre-existing conditions. Carrie from Middletown is just one of them. A small business owner, she and her daughter both have pre-existing conditions. And before the Affordable Care Act, she would have found it very difficult to afford quality health care to make possible her ongoing confidence that she and her daughter have access to decent health care. When we talked about this last week, she said to me, "Seriously? That's at risk? I thought that was settled." It was. 8 years ago, a majority of the Supreme Court upheld the constitutionality of the Affordable Care Act. But President Trump has made it blindingly clear, publicly and repeatedly, that he only intended to nominate someone who would overturn the Affordable Care Act. That will throw into chaos the lives of millions of Americans. In some ways, most importantly, given that we are talking about filling the seat made vacant by Justice Ginsburg's untimely passing, a key provision of the Affordable Care Act prohibits gender discrimination. Women cannot be charged more for health care just because they're women. Pregnancy cannot be treated as a pre-existing condition. And Justice Ginsburg dedicated her life to gender equity. Sometimes folks in covering the ACA mistakenly say it benefits 10 million or 20 million or 30 million Americans. It benefits a majority of all Americans, those with pre-existing conditions and those whose pre-existing condition is being female. We should not turn away from a focus on protecting the health care of a majority of Americans in the middle of a pandemic. So much more than that is at stake in this confirmation, which we will lay out in the next 2 days, but this is the most pressing and most important thing in the middle of a pandemic. Let me now turn it over to my friend and colleague, Senator Blumenthal of Connecticut.
Thanks, Senator Coons. They say they have the votes. They say they have the votes. They may have the votes on this committee. They don't have the American people on their side, their votes. They don't have history on their side. Connor Kern is on the right side of history. Every time I look at this picture, it just breaks my heart to remember all of the pins and needles that have been stuck in this young man, all of the procedures, all the pain and anguish. At the very least, the anguish of paying for it should not be imposed on Connor and his family. This hearing is going to be about real people and the harm that Justice Amy Coney Barrett could do to those real people in real ways if she is confirmed and she overturns the Affordable Care Act. Twice, she has said that she would vote to overturn the Affordable Care Act had she been a justice in the 2 previous decisions. She's written that Supreme Court precedent can be disregarded if it conflicts with how individual justices' positions are aligned. This danger is real and urgent. But there are 2 other health care issues on the line here. Reproductive rights is a health care issue. Women's control over their bodies and their decisions about health care is a right of women under Roe v. Wade, which is in danger because of specific letters and ads that Amy Coney Barrett has signed. And we're going to be asking about them. Gun violence is a health care issue. The epidemic and scourge of gun violence continues to kill tens of thousands of Americans. And Amy Coney Barrett's position on disregarding past precedent on gun violence provisions endangers laws like Connecticut, common sense provisions that protect people against gun violence. They may win in this committee. They may confirm this justice. But the American people can still stop it if they stand up and they speak out. Americans, you have the power to stop this nomination if you make it known as powerfully as possible to your senators what it means to you. Thank you, and I'm honored to now turn it over to my colleague, Senator Hirono.
Aloha, everybody. So healthcare is a concern for everybody in our country, whether you're a Democrat, Republican, Independent, whatever. You know, and the Republicans have been trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act for over 10 years, act as though this nomination is occurring in a vacuum. No, she is being nominated for the very purpose of striking down the Affordable Care Act, something they couldn't do in the last 10 years. Do you notice that it's only the Democrats on the committee who are talking about what's going to happen to the real people here if the Affordable Care Act is struck down? Now, this is Jordan. She is a teacher in Hawaii. She has such a rare blood condition that she needs medication that will cost her $500,000 a year. There's no way that she can afford that. And it's the Affordable Care Act that is enabling her to live. This is what we're talking about. Notice we're the only ones who are talking about this. Meanwhile, the Republicans are hiding the fact that they are so eager to push forth this nominee for the very purpose of taking away the health care of all these people. They are hiding that fact from the American people. And you guys should be asking every single Republican, why are you doing that to your constituents? Okay, ask that. Thank you. And my friend Cory Booker.
We're in the middle of the fourth largest mass casualty event in American history after the Civil War, World War II, and the pandemic of 1918. In the midst of all of that, we are rushing to remove health care away from millions and millions of Americans. It's just wrong. I'd like to bring up Dick Durbin to answer questions.
Shortest Cory Booker speech.
Oh, Cory, but you said it all. You said it all.
A picture's worth 1,000 words.
Is it the contention of leadership to over in your caucus to boycott the Coney Barrett floor vote when it does come to a confirmation vote on the floor?
I've heard no speculation along those lines. I haven't heard anything.
Senator,
I'm planning on voting on the floor, unless my not voting stops her from moving forward. We'll see.
Republicans repeatedly said you were attacking her faith.
Did you hear one of us raise that issue?
My question is, do any of you all plan on pursuing that line of questioning over the next 2 days?
We have taken an
What's
oath.
your response to
We have taken an oath to a Constitution which says no religious test.
Yep.
Enough said.
You plan to highlight Republican disunity over a stimulus, given that, we're still in the middle of this pandemic and they're rushing to confirm this nomination, but not to pass a stimulus?
Only because the people, the first thing the people we represent ask us, why aren't you doing something to help with COVID-19?
The opening I made in my comments was, I get more questions than anything else about why aren't you giving another round of stimulus
I
relief
have one thing.
rather than doing.
Could I add one thing here? Is that 74% of Americans in a recent NBC poll said we should be doing that our Republican colleagues who run the Senate should be leading on COVID relief instead of having this hearing. Americans are with us on this. And I would add one thing that I didn't get to say at the hearing. We just heard the head of the Federal Reserve say that it would be tragic if we didn't get something passed to help the economy. That is the Trump-appointed head of the Federal Reserve. We know what we should be doing. We're just asking our colleagues, instead of engaging in this sham of a hearing, that they should be helping the American people. No one knows it better than me. When my husband had this and was really sick with pneumonia in the hospital, my dad got in assisted living. And we have multiple examples all over this country with over 210,000 people dead. Over 7 million people have gotten this disease. Schools open and closed and open and closed. Moms having kids trying to learn the mute button at age 6. Maybe it's time to help the American people instead of jamming through their nominee who they want on there, and we know this from what Donald Trump has said, to overturn the Affordable Care Act.
And 55,000 more Americans will die before the end of the year. 55,000 more Americans will be dead because of Donald Trump's ineptitude and incompetence and our Republican colleagues blocking action here.
Senator Durbin, as a group, you guys were quite disciplined and unified.
Pretty surprising, yeah?
Yes, exactly. How'd you do it? And do you think it was effective to stay focused on ACA and not focus on religion and other
There's
things
an old
like
cliche, there's nothing more powerful than an idea whose time has come. Saving the Affordable Care Act is that idea. It unites us and it unites the American people, and the Republicans on that committee and beyond are tone deaf in the middle of a pandemic to be pushing a lawsuit to eliminate health care protection.
It's what we're all hearing.
Yep.
It's what we are all hearing.
Senator Klobuchar and Senator Moreno specifically, two of the female Republican senators said that essentially accused you all of sort of a paternalistic or misogynistic attacks. They said basically, given your track record, you would think that my colleagues would jump at the opportunity to support a successful female legal superstar. That you might that you're also suggesting that maybe only certain kinds of women would be allowed into the hearing room. What's your
Okay,
reaction?
if I could, I'll just
Go ahead, Amy, you go
here. We'll
first.
go
And then I'll
together
go.
here.
Sure.
We are proud that there are so many women that are now serving in the U.S. Senate, and we are proud that more and more women are achieving positions of power. But that doesn't mean that we have to agree with every woman that's nominated. Actually, I know this because I ran against a number of women for president, and we were able to handle it just fine. The point here is that we have a nominee that Donald Trump has put forward for the purpose of overturning the Affordable Care Act, something they've been trying to do time and time again in the courts, someone who has expressed views that I do not believe are consistent with where the American people are. And the final worst part of it to me is that he has done this where he clearly says he wants full 9 justices on the court, intimating that that is where this election is going to end up, to count the ballots. So many of us think there's some serious problems with having a nominee who we are waiting to see if she will recuse herself from these cases. But he is literally putting her on for that reason. That's what matters to us. And so our colleagues on the other side can do what they want to distract from the real issues for the American people. But the real issue for the American people is their rights, their health care, their health.
I think it's really interesting that the Republicans decided that it's the 2 women on the committee who should raise those kinds of gender issues. It just goes to show how gender neutral we all are on our side, because we're going to hold Amy Barrett to her positions, to her articulated positions on the ACA, on Roe v. Wade, and a number of other issues. Gender has nothing to do with it. It just says to me that they feel kind of really like they're very defensive about it, you know? And you know that they didn't even have any women on the committee until after the Kavanaugh hearings. That should tell you something.
One more question, maybe?
Senator Durbin, or Annie, do you really, how much of the points you all are making on healthcare are focused at trying to sway 2 more Republicans, and how much are focused at sort of voters and driving home your message?
Well, I think it goes together. We're really calling on the American people who agree with us to reach out to these senators. And as Senator Booker said earlier, 1 Republican on the committee, 2 on the floor, and this nomination is stopped. That's what it comes down to. So, you know, we're appealing to people across America. If you agree with us on the importance of saving the Affordable Care Act, reach out to your senators. They need to hear from you.
Have you had conversations with your Republican colleagues that make you think there are 2 more out there?
I wish.
Again, our message ends with this mask. Vote, number 1. And number 2, call the Republican senators, because we don't have some special procedural, clever way to stop this sham. It's the American people that are going to stop it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Very colorful.